Hello and welcome to the 30th episode of The Cosmic Egg. It is December 25th at 7:30 in the morning right now. The sun hasn't risen yet. It rises at 7:50 in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. It is December 25th. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. All that good stuff. And I guess we should talk a little bit about Christmas. And maybe perhaps what's behind the walls of Christmas. This is actually one of my favorite times of year, if not my favorite, other than Halloween. I love the four seasons, actually. Spring, summer, fall, and winter. The beginnings of each. I love those periods. I love the whole time, of course, but when those seasons are markedly changing, I'm loving it. I love it when I feel spring coming on and get spring fever and all that. Anyway, Christmas. I love it. It always brings me back to my childhood when we were young and the magical time it felt when we were super young and all those lights and everything just lit up, just all those colors and lights. It was just beautiful, man. It's just amazing. And if there's lots of snow, that's what brings it to life. If you have green grass and lights around your house, well, you could have a million lights around your house, but no snow, no go. It just won't look that good. Inside the house, Christmas trees always look great. You know, when they're decorated up and there's presents and things around, it always looks amazing. But when it's outside, you need that snow to bring everything, the lights to life. So, and the Christmas songs. I love the Christmas songs, man. And when we were young, we always changed the words and ruined it. I don't know about you. We always did. And we couldn't resist. And when we giggle and shit like that. Terrible class behavior. There must have been some feces in that old silk hat they found. For when they placed it on his head, he began to turn all brown. Oh yeah, man. We had different lyrics for every song. They'd send us home, tell us to study the songs. We're going to all sing it in the choir and stuff like that. And we'd go home and just change all the words and then memorize that. So let's take a look at what makes this time of year so special. We have to go back to the beginning. Because this revolves around the sun. That's what makes this so special. That's what makes all the holidays special, by the way. It's where the sun is. Okay? All the big celebrations are based on the sun. So in this case, we're looking at the sun going to the farthest point in the southern hemisphere as it can possibly go in its orbit. And when it goes to the farthest point in the south, they are experiencing the most horrific conditions of the year. Heat plagues, disease, etc. that comes from heat plagues. In the opposite end, in the north, where I am, we experience death everywhere. All the vegetation dies, everything starts to die around us, and things become rather cold. We experience winter, and it is the harshest time of year. More deaths occur during this period than any other, both in the south and the northeast. Well, it doesn't really matter. It's well known that many people pass away during Christmas, just of natural causes even. It is just known as the time of death. To go out in the winter hunting on foot in the ancient times, no electricity, no nothing, keep the fire going or you all die, period, in a very short time. So it is a very dangerous time of year, and it is still. I'm sitting here comfy, cozy in my apartment, but you know what? If the electricity goes out, we don't have a whole lot of time, just a few hours to find shelter, or we're going to be in trouble. A lot of trouble. So why we live here anyway is beyond me. Why anybody settled in this place is beyond me. But I know it's obviously doable. I mean, we have Eskimos, right? But like I said, even to the ancients, it represented a lot of death, regardless of how good you worked the winter. It's just a dangerous time of year. So let's get back to, so how did the ancients kind of describe this? Well, they always use symbols. And remember, everything revolves around the sun. So at this time, they call it a time of Capricorn. You might be of that zodiac sign, Capricorn, which represents winter. And which animal did they use to represent this time of year? Because the ancients always used animals to represent and to reflect what's going on or what they're trying to say to you or what the energy or the power they're trying to convey to you. In this case, it's the mountain goat. Why? Because the mountain goat is probably the only animal known for leaping around mountain to icy mountaintops. Totally dangerous, and they do slip the odd occasion themselves to their doom. One wrong move, you are gone. So these guys are on mountains. They're sure-footed, cautious, and all these other qualities that come with Capricorn in winter. So it's an animal that describes winter. And so that's why they used the goat, the mountain goat. Sure-footed, cautious, all these things you need to be to survive the winter. Be like the mountain goat. So to wrap up the winter solstice, it is probably their biggest celebration. Not their happiest one. I think their happiest one would probably be spring or summer, But there's a great amount of joy that comes with this because it's a matter of, oh my God, life is going to return to Earth soon because the sun has gone as far to the south as it can. It can only come north now. And as it comes north, things will start to melt, life will return, vegetation will return, they'll be able to eat and grow food and survive and not freeze to death. So all these different things that are going on. So it is a major celebration for survival reasons. Now, later in history, different religions cropped up all around the world, and everybody adhered to their favorite one. Just like picking a sports team, man. So it depends where you were. You probably had some religion shoved at you as a kid. So let's take a look at how some religions used the sun during this time of year. So I'm familiar with Christianity mostly, so I'll go with that one. So the Christianity, when they came out, they turned it into the birth of Jesus, the nativity story. And they put that celebration right around the winter solstice. The winter solstice this year in 2022 was around December 21st, 2022, around 6:45 at night, I think, or something like that. Don't quote me on that. I'm just winging it here, but I think it was around 6:45 at night that the sun actually reached its furthest point in the south this year in 2022. Wait, no, it was 4:47 or something. Sorry. So basically, when we're talking Christmas, they're talking about the story about the birth of this guy named Jesus, Jesus or whatever, and the nativity story. So that's basically their Christmas right there. That's it. That's all that, when it comes to Christianity, there's not much Christianity in Christmas, hate to say. They only have really a couple of things about it, and that's the birth of Jesus or nativity story. The one thing, really. It's actually one thing. The birth of Jesus or the nativity story. That's it. Nativity story. That's all they have. As far as Christmas goes, that's it. Nativity story. So if we look at the earlier pagan celebration, what came about? What did they do during that time? Well, if you're pagan, you would decorate a tree. It's called a Christmas tree now. This is totally 100% pagan. They decorated houses, so the lights we were just talking about. They gave gifts to each other. Well, we still do that. I don't know if you do, but there's wreaths hung up on the doors. There's big feasts and stockings that they filled. There were sweet treats or baking going on. There were gingerbread houses. Gingerbread men came about, little gingerbread men. Holly and mistletoe and holiday crackers, including the paper hat. All this is 110% pagan. So if you're like me and like to be a little cocky, like to be a little bit of a shit disturber, devil's advocate, and if you're Christians, you just ask them if they do gift giving or if they decorate a tree or have a Christmas tree or do any of those things. And then ask them if they practice paganism. And if they say no, you say, isn't that a Christmas tree behind you? Well, you're practicing paganism. Did you just give me a Christmas gift? Well, thank you for that pagan gesture. Hey, is that a gingerbread man? Can I have a taste of that pagan treat? They could get all cocky like that because it's all pagan. It has nothing to do with Christianity. In fact, they really shouldn't be doing that because it's ours. Okay, it's ours. You stole it. Of course, you stole a lot of stuff, didn't you? What about Easter? Yeah? You guys called it Easter. It's actually, just for aside, just as an aside, as I said earlier, all the celebrations are based on the sun when you go back in time. So look at Easter. Easter, Eostra, Ostara, there's all different words for it throughout history. But this was a celebration of spring, the return of life, right? The rebirth of your vegetation. It's called rebirth and procreation. And so to celebrate this, you've often seen it, it's still used today, eggs and rabbits. Why? Because rabbits, they procreate like crazy. And the egg is to represent the rebirth. And it's the symbol of birth, right? The egg. So what the Christians did, they did a rebirth thing to copy it, obviously, because they're using the sun in reality. So to copy it and to make it theirs, they had the rebirth of Christ. Okay? It's a story, people. A story. That's it. It stops there. Okay? It's in a book. It doesn't exist outside the book. Okay? It's a story about the sun. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay. I will say that the thing I've always admired about paganism is that you can touch, feel, taste, and smell what they're talking about. You can watch the rebirth come. You can see it. Right? Spring. You watch it every year. So you can watch the death come every year too. During winter, you can watch it all. You can taste, touch, feel. It's all around you. It's inside you. It affects you on every level. So you are part of the universe, in other words. So let's get back to Christmas. Yeah. It's the best time of the year. Oh, by golly, have a holly jolly Christmas this year. Yeah, I know all the songs, man. Can't sing them, but I know them. One thing I wanted to bring up was a word, a name given to somebody who I believe is an anagram made by somebody who knows history and was just being, well, cocky, I think, which I love. And that word is Santa. Okay, now if you look at Christmas, Christmas is represented by Capricorn in the ancient times, right? Its ruling planet is Saturn. Saturn represents death, coldness, cautiousness, and all those qualities found in the mountain goat. But it actually represents much more as well. It's also Saturn, Set, Sebek, Satan, Saturday, and so on. It traces it back in history. It's got a lot of representations. Keep in mind that the 7 days of the week are your 7 planets. So Saturday is Saturn Day, Sunday. Monday is Lundi or Luna Day, Moon Day. Tuesday is Mars Day or Mardi, and so on and so forth. The 7 planets you can see with the human eye are your 7 days of the week, and that's why they're there. So for me, there's just way too much coincidence there. So I truly believe that Santa is an anagram of Satan, because the true Satan would be Saturn, the planet, right? So there you go. We can trace it back in history. Okay, this brings us to the word religion. Oh my. Paganism wasn't really a religion. They had forces of nature that they talked about and gave personifications to, but these are all actual things that you can see, touch, taste, and smell. Where in religions, basically, you have gods and stuff like that. You can't bring them to the table. They're supposed to be everywhere, but they just never show up. And that's the problem, because the mind creates whatever you want. And so it creates a reality for you. But if somebody's standing next to you, they don't experience the same thing. So people will say, oh, I know, for instance, that Jesus exists because I've seen this. He has done this for me, and so on and so on. And you go to a different religion, you'll get people saying the same thing about that God, and then their God. And then you go to another place, and they'll say the exact same thing about their God. And what they don't realize, that's how the brain works. The brain actually works that way. So if I have an ape God, that ape would talk to me when I'm talking to him. He would answer me. That's my brain answering, by the way. You have to get used to it. You have to really put things to the test. Have him show up for dinner with a neighbor who isn't Christian, if it's Jesus. If he doesn't show, ask him why he can't appear for 2 seconds to say, hello, it's Christmas time, for God's sake. And to appear in a sensible form. I think he knows how we use our eyes and how we speak or do sign language and all the different ways we communicate. So if he could communicate with us in a decent form, you see, that's never going to happen. Ever. Because these are characters in a book, right? Sorry. And some people, unfortunately, now this is the thing about religion. Religion is there, I believe. Religion's there for faith. It's for people to keep going so they don't kill themselves or lose faith or hope or, lose hope in life, because life is so harsh. Hey, we're talking about winter too. Perfect time to talk about this harshness, right? So we're talking about really harsh conditions. People need faith to go on. They're losing loved ones and they're never going to see them again. The mind can't accept that. That's way too painful, man. That is way too painful. Imagining your mother, never seeing your mother again? No, thank you. No, thank you. So it's no surprise at all that we need something that says we're all going to get together again. The trillions and gillion and gazillion people that have existed since the beginning of time and all the ancients with spears, we're all going to get together, and whoa, that's going to be a weird day. A pretty violent one too. So yeah, I don't really need that much faith to carry on because, I've read too much. I can't really convince myself of different things like that. If you're raised Christian, that's all you know because you were Christian before you were born. You didn't have a hope in hell of making your own logical. You're indoctrinated. You're indoctrinated. If you've been going to church that long, you're indoctrinated. You can't walk away from Christianity. And if you do switch religions, you'll find yourself dragging parts of your old religion into your new one because you can't let it totally go. It won't happen. Okay, that's very difficult, if not impossible. You can take control of it to a certain degree, but it can never be truly extinguished. That's why I hate to see kids at church and stuff. No offense, but they should be allowed to be free of all religion until they've reached that age where they can make their own decisions, read a very complicated book, such as The Golden Bough by J.G. Fraser, something like that, But unfortunately, that's not the way it is for a lot of people. So they don't have a hope in hell. A lot of people are going to bring up that name, Saint Nick. I don't want to get too much into history, but Saint Nick is fairly modern to me. He actually is. It goes way back farther, as I said. Christmas, the winter solstice, goes back to the beginning of time, man. The very earliest man, even before Homo sapiens. So very ancient. So in order to appreciate, for me to appreciate Christmas to its fullest, I need to take religion right out of it, because there's actually hardly any religion in Christmas. Like I said, there's only one thing for the Christians. That's just their nativity story. Everything else is pagan. So for me, it behooves me to just stick with the original, not the later, adaptations, you might say. Actually, they just remind me of remade movies, and they just twist things too far to the point that people lose the original intent, the original reason behind the celebrations, such as the winter solstice became Christmas, but they've lost tons of knowledge. The original reason behind the winter solstice is completely lost to them. And it's actually very sad. So to be perfectly blunt, if there's two people at a table and one says, I invited the spaghetti monster to have dinner with us, I'm just waiting for him to arrive. The other person said, I invited Jesus, I'm just waiting for him to arrive. Both of them are going to be waiting a long time. Their dinner will go cold because neither are going to be there in any sensible form. It can only exist in your mind. And your brain will paint the appropriate scenario for you on its empty canvas, and it's complete with sound and motion. So, now that you know a little bit, if you didn't know, a little bit about the origins of Christmas and the winter solstice, well, now you do. And you can dig deep into it. It gets rather complex, and it's a big history. It's a long time period we're talking about. I might suggest reading J.G. Fraser's The Golden Bough. That's always a good one. That's the roots of religion and folklore. So you can see how everything kind of came about over time and changed and adapted to itself around the different parts of the world. But the beauty of it is that you can come back home and land in a safe spot. And that spot is on the sun. As mentioned before, the sun is the reason behind all the major festivities that we have. And for myself, I always want proof in the pudding. So when I'm working with something, if it doesn't give me absolute proof, if I can't put it to the test, I'm not that keen on calling it actual, because I can imagine anything in my mind. Like when I imagine Hermes, the god Hermes, and I talk to Hermes in my mind, well, Hermes answers, right? Often. But I know it's my own mind. Nobody's going to answer, so the mind answers for you. Otherwise, it'd be nothing. And the mind hates formlessness like that. It hates things like that, so it always responds in some way. So, by golly, I guess that's about it. I'm just going to take up these few extra seconds and just wish you all a happy winter solstice, a happy Merry Christmas, Hanukkah, all the different religions out there. Hello, hello, hello. Hope you have a great season, a safe season. Very dangerous out there, slippery roads, people still dying, even in modern days. The winter solstice is still as dangerous as ever, and always will be. And that is, and there you go. That's the Behind the Walls of Christmas.
Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas!